Hi, good evening, everybody. This is Robin Heron, your carnivorous grandma here. I am so excited to be here once again for Carnivorous Grandma Speaks Women of Wisdom series. I just want to share a quick scripture here that I have that goes along with this series, and it is Proverbs 14:1, and it says, "Every wise woman builds her house, but the foolish tears it down with her hands." And so I love that scripture. It resonates with me as far as this diet and the carnivore way of eating and proper human diet goes. I feel like when we make this choice, we're making a great choice for our home and our body, which is our physical house. So I just want to welcome tonight Laura Russell from at Healthy Carnivore. Welcome. So
Oh,
glad you're here.
thank you very much.
Laura is one of my co-hosts on the Media Mondays with the Fierce Felines broadcast. And I've been wanting to get her on to talk to her about some amazing things that she's doing, amazing work that she's doing. So, Laura, would you just like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Laura Russell, I am 52. I'll be 53 coming up in April. Been a nurse for over 21 years. I have two children and five grandchildren, and I think that's it. We think. um, I went keto 28 years, and then I went carnivore a little over 4 years ago. Went lion a little over 9 months ago, and that's where I feel my best is eating the lion diet, just ruminant animals, salt, water, and lots of ribeye fat.
Okay, awesome. So you said a mouthful there. You said that you were keto for 28 years. How in the world did you find keto?
Well, and it really was called keto. So I was young. I went to the doctor when I was 19. He was fairly new, and I was heavy, but I was kind of like you. I wasn't as heavy as I thought I really was when I look back
Yeah.
at just what was on the magazines and on MTV. I was heavy. So
Mhm.
I went to him, and of course, he was like standard American diet, which isn't what he called it, but he was like, eating Doritos is fine. Just don't eat real butter. Don't eat the whole eggs. He was like, eat margarine, which was country crock.
Mhm.
Eat the egg whites and eat turkey bacon, which I'll fight anybody. That's fake bacon. I ain't never
Yeah,
eat ever again.
nasty
Yeah.
stuff.
And so I did that for a year, and I went back at 20. I'd had my daughter and found myself morbidly obese. When I went to get my labs done the week before my appointment, the lady drawing my lab, turns the little tube over to show you your name and your birthday and ask you if that's correct. And I was like, yeah. And I was like, but above the label inside there, you could see little pieces that looked like Crisco. And I said, what's the white stuff? Because I wasn't a nurse yet, so I didn't know. And she goes, oh, that's just fat. Like, no, no big deal. And I'm,
Whoa.
yeah. And I thought, wow. Now I went home and I still ate my brownies that night because I wasn't connected. Um, but then when I saw the doctor a week later, Lipitor was fairly new. I think it came out in 89 or 90, but it was fairly new on the market. He really, that's all he went to. He just told me, handed me a script, wanted me to take this medication. And I said, how long will I be on this? And he said, oh, forever. And I was like, I don't think I want to do that. And his exact words to me were, well, if you don't, you're going to die of fat A. Yes. Now
Oh
he's very
my.
fortunate that when I was 20, I was a little more mild than I am now. It would have went the same. uh,
Mhm.
but that actually lit a fire with my personality under me. And I remember leaving there and I sat out in my car out in the parking lot. It was in our little town over in Iowa. And I thought, this can't be right. I am not going to allow myself to live out of a medicine bottle. This just doesn't seem right to me. It didn't feel
Mhm.
natural. And so I went to our library. We had a local library, and I spent weeks reading every medical journal I could find. And I started with some of the newer ones. And of course, it was all about medications. So the little librarian was like, well, I have even these. And they literally were from like 1850s up to 1910.
Hmm.
Every one of those types of journals started with your nutrition. It was just like when you take your animal to a vet and they're sick, the vet's first question, at least my vet, every time I've ever taken an animal is, well, what are you feeding them?
Right.
But they don't really do that at the doctor's office.
No.
And, but I just really read, and it talked about saturated fats and how healthy they were and how they had been utilized for centuries, for many things, including some remedies that you can do, skin things that you can do with them, all types of stuff. And I thought, where did we go wrong? Where did that paradigm shift,
Right.
which made me go down a rabbit hole. And thank God they didn't have Google back then, but, finding how the medical schools used to be about half and half, where you had a lot of your homeopathic functional type medical schools. And then you had half that are apothecary, which are your medicinal, they push a
Hmm.
approach. And that the holistic functional ones basically were threatened and shut down if they didn't, convert over to the medicinal side.
Oh,
So
that's interesting. I never knew that. I never knew that there was sort of a division there earlier on, and that I mean we don't have that. I mean we do still kind of have it, but those holistic ones are not considered to be real, doctors. So,
and there was actually multiple. So there was like acupuncture, acupressure, chiropractic was another one. Now they did survive, but barely. You
mhm,
Not even looked at by mainstream medicine as high, which I do. I use a chiropractor. I do believe in chiropractic care as well. Um, so I really just kind of rested on what I read there and, remembering my grandma's voice, of how her parents ate, how she ate, how she grew up. And I thought, I'm just going to do that and see how that goes. And I just went home and I feel kind of bad about what I did now because it wasn't helping the people that it was meant to help. But we had a great big food pantry there in town. And I just took everything, all the
mhm,
bread, potatoes, pasta, rice, everything I had. And I had a lot because I've always been a prepper. And I took that to the food pantry. Now, if I had that same choice, it'd just go in the trash. You know,
yeah,
not that I can afford to throw stuff away, but I'm not going to harm other people,
mm,
and
yeah.
it's harming. Um, so that's kind of how I got into it. And I did that for 9 months and went and had my blood work done
Well, what
again.
kind of things were you eating? I mean, what was the dietary change that you did?
So, previous to that, I mean, I was in chips constantly. It was like Doritos, cottage cheese, sandwiches.
Mhm,
I was a sugaraholic. So I definitely was, when you talk about addicts, sugar was the thing. So I was one of those people. It's kind of like when Rebecca was talking about the cookies. I
yes.
My last meal before I quit everything was a full pan of brownies, and I ate like a corner piece. That was my favorite. And then I was like, the little voice in your head's like, well, the other piece is going to dry out. So you'll have to go eat that one. And then, next thing you know, you've eaten the outer edge of the entire
Mhm,
brownie pan. So that was, and I didn't eat sugar to that degree every day, but I was like a binger. And
mhm.
so when I stopped all that, I had gardened with my grandmother and I hadn't done that for a few years after she had passed away. And I thought, I'm going to start doing that. So I just went more with your whole foods. So uh,
Okay.
I ate some vegetables, but they don't like me and I don't really care that much about them. So yeah, I could do some broccoli. I could do some green beans, which I don't even consider a green bean really a vegetable. It's more of a starchy legume. Ugh.
Right. Yes, that's true.
I just did that. I went to water only. I gave up pop and I'm trying to think, went to real butter, started cooking with bacon grease, used lard. If I wanted something that was chips, the sensation, I ate pork rinds. And
Hmm.
I did that and I integrate like my daughter, she was brand new. And by the time she was a year old, she was eating that way. So she didn't start out with like a bunch of the junk until I used WIC, which was like, here's juicy juice. And
Oh, yep.
oh,
Yep.
I was just telling my husband today, that was horrible.
Right.
Was just pure sugar that we were giving our kids, and we thought we were doing the right thing.
Yes.
So
Because that's what we're taught,
yeah,
right? Is that you have to have so many servings of fruits and vegetables every
right,
day,
right.
and that juice is a good, healthy choice for a child.
Yep.
It's
Yeah,
kind of crazy now that I think about it.
yeah, and that's what I was saying today. I was watching a video with Dr. Berg, and he was talking about some of the different things. And it's like, I'm never going to eat an apple again ever in my life because I really don't care to. I don't miss it. It's still
Yeah.
not as good to buy. But if I have a grandchild over, I would never give them a glass of juice. But if I had the choice, it would be an apple because at least
Mhm.
getting something that slows down when they eat the peel, they're going to get some of that fiber that I don't need fiber. But somebody that's going to eat that, it does slow down how quickly it turns into a sugar. So I was a little smarter by the time I had my second child 5 years later. So I did that. But yeah, I lost 140 pounds in that.
Wow.
Yeah. And which that was impressive, but my lab work, and I tried to get that. I called my old hospital last week because I'm going to be interviewed by Dr. Baker, and I wanted to have my, beginning labs.
Yes.
They laughed at me. They were like, "We don't have lab reports from 33 years ago." And I said, "I can't find, I don't have it. I've moved how many times,
Oh,
and
yeah.
I did.
Right. Yeah.
And so I can't find it. I do know that my triglycerides were 1,000. I don't know what my total cholesterol was. I think it was over 600, but I'm not positive. Yeah.
So interesting. I listen to Dr. Kiltz a lot of times in the mornings, that 5 a.m. meetup
Yeah.
that he has, and he always says, "Stop counting.
Yeah.
Stop stop measuring it."
Yeah.
So, like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
1,000 though, that had to be a little bit nerve-wracking.
Well, and the only thing I knew at that doctor's appointment was when he says, "Well, your triglycerides are 1,000." He really didn't hit so much on the other parts. He
Mm,
just, well, that's telling you diabetes is coming. So it's a precursor for diabetes. The triglycerides kind of show that, even though it's in your lipid profile. And anybody that knows me, excuse me, I love to poke other people with needles, and I'm pretty good at it. But I don't like to poke me. So I wasn't going to be one of those people that was poking my fingers every day. And I thought, mm-mm, I will do whatever it takes to not become diabetic. And that was where I was like, throw away the pop, throw away the sugar, just throw away the white stuff. Um,
mhm.
and that's what I did. And I never, ever went back. I've never had a pop since then. I've never had a brownie. I don't. And the thing is, everybody's like, don't you? I'm like, I can eat a ribeye. No.
Right. That's true. I mean, it's so satisfying, the
Yeah.
ribeye is. So, I wanna go back just a second to you said that you could so you are a nurse, but
Yeah.
you said that when you looked at the tube, you could literally see the fat in the
Yeah.
tube.
So when it turned on its side, then the blood lays this way, and there was the label, and right above it, on top of the blood, it looked like little chunks, little squarish, round, like little teeny chunks of look like Crisco. And I said, "Oh,
Mhm.
what is that?" And I'm thinking maybe it's the fluid that's in the tube when they first start to draw your blood.
Mhm.
She goes, "Oh, that's just fat," and that's what it was. It was that.
I have never seen that. I didn't even know that. I
Yeah.
didn't realize that you could have chunky stuff in your blood.
And so it was actually, now I know that it was triglycerides.
Wow.
How high that
That's crazy.
their meter only went to 1,000 that year. Now I think meters can go as high as 1,500 now. And
Mhm.
I remember when the lab technician come out that day, she said, "Well, you already maxed out our meter." And it was within a minute. So she was like, and I don't know how long they spin it. I'm not sure,
Mhm.
but for it to go up that high that quick, my guess is it was probably even higher than that. When I went back at 9 months, it was 35 or 33, my triglycerides.
So, oh,
From a thousand,
you just answered the question I was about to ask. That
yes,
is crazy.
yes.
It
And
probably was uh country crock
yeah,
floating around in your blood.
absolutely. So I remember the nurse took me in the room first, of course, and she goes, "Well, your lab work has improved. He's just going to be so pleased." And I said, "Yeah." I was like, "I've done a lot of work, you know." And I wasn't even moving at this point. Like I mean,
Mhm.
I worked, but I wasn't out walking or doing no exercise because I couldn't. I mean, I'm an asthmatic for one, and I was not in good shape lung wise. I had not kept myself healthy lung wise, being so heavy and not moving. So I didn't do a lot of that. But the first thing he said when he walked in was, "Are you gonna thank me?" And I'm like, "Who you talking to?" Um, and he said, "Well, I told you Lipitor would work." And I said, "Well, I didn't take your Lipitor." You know, back then it was your little paper script. And
Mhm.
I set it on his desk and he goes, "Well, I don't understand." And I said, "Yeah, and that's the problem. I
Right.
can't you you don't know how the human body works other than to throw medicine in it." And I said, "And that's a shame. I had to go and figure it out myself." And I said,
Right.
"But it made me figure it out." And I said, "By the way, you're fired."
So you just went back to tell him that.
Yes.
Period.
Yep. Yep. I did. And I gave him his script back because I didn't want it. But
Yeah.
uh, yeah,
That is crazy. So that was how many years ago was
that,
that? So you said you did that for 28 years. So that's
that
been a long time ago.
yeah, 1991.
Okay. That's when my son was born,
Yeah.
1991.
Yep.
Wow, that is crazy. So now 28 years of keto, which of course was not called keto. Did you count your carbs or do any of that kind of stuff? Or
I
just
they count my carbs so much, except for maybe the last 2 years, kind of when I started finding Ken Berry and niche
mhm,
talking about keeping them below 25. But I found that I had probably been keeping them under 10, 15 the whole time.
oh, wow.
Um, like eggs, you get a little bit in that, stuff like that.
Mhm.
But I had probably been keeping it under 25 easily almost that whole time. Cause like I said, the only carbs I would have been getting would have been the vegetables. And we're not friends, so I didn't have them over a lot.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of vegetables. I've always hated salad.
Yep.
I'm like, lettuce is a waste of energy. Like, it's a waste of my chewing to have to chew that. It's just not delicious, not tasty. I
Well,
hate lettuce.
yeah, and it's just water. And I mean, we grow leaf lettuce, which I feel is at least a little better than like your iceberg. And my husband likes that. He does wilted lettuce with the bacon grease, you know, and
Mhm.
cider
Well,
vinegar.
everything's better with bacon grease.
Absolutely.
Eat
Well,
anything with that.
when you have to douse something with, you know, all of these seed oils just to make it so that you can eat it. I mean, every time I see G and Frederick talk about him having to do all that time of chicken Caesar salad, like, oh
Yes.
my
I know. Feel so bad for him that he had to do that, and it didn't work. That's
and
the
it,
sad thing.
I know.
It did not work. So, but yeah, I'm just not a fan. I mean, I guess there are certain vegetables that I do like. Like I like cabbage,
Yeah. I
and
fermented cabbage. When I was a kid, my grandma made fermented cabbage. The
mhm,
way of just with the salt and stuff. Um, and I do have some of that that I have, you know, canned and put up for prep or to barter someday if I have to. But I can't sit here and go, is there a vegetable I really like? Not really.
mm. I think cabbage is about the top one for me. And I have had a little bit of cabbage. I think if I was going to eat a vegetable, it would be cabbage because I don't have any reaction to it.
Which,
S Huh?
but that's nice when you don't
Yeah,
have a reaction.
right.
My reactions weren't really like, um, anything. It was more just my gut would be on fire. You know,
Mm-hmm.
the doctor was like, "Oh, you have GERD." No, I don't have GERD. You know, I don't have too much acid. Most people don't realize this too, is when they're having that acid come back up, it's not that they have too much, they don't have enough. And their food
Oh,
is in their stomach and it's actually rotting, kind of like diabetics. It's not breaking down because you've shut down your pumps, whether it be a whole bunch of antibiotics that have, set off the gut biome, or whether it's you're taking an acid reducer medication, or even Rolaids. Like my mother loves Tums and Rolaids, and I'm like, Mom.
so what do you do? Because for the last night, I had acid reflux. I got up and took some Rolaids. I'm like, okay, I'm going to have to take something because it's terrible.
Well,
And yeah, so
two things that I have done is I changed my eating window, because if I eat too late, if I eat much after 4 or 5 p.m., I will find that I have that a little bit more. So that was one thing I do. And I have the apple cider vinegar with the mother, which I'm
yeah,
going to my own, because I don't trust what's out on the market much anymore.
yeah.
I kind of like to not have some of those chemicals that they spray on stuff in me, but I would take just like a shot glass, and I'll just and then drink
Mhm.
behind it. Some people pour it in a glass of water with some honey or some lemon. Some people just do it straight. I don't have any problem. Just if I have that, that's what I'll do. But I find it's more if I eat later in the day. So I've made my eating window. If I'm going to do 2 meals a day, I'll do one like at 7:30 in the morning before I
Mhm.
go, and then by 1:30 I'm done. I've had my last meal at that time.
Do you typically eat 1 or 2 meals a day, or what's your
I
typical?
I used to be I'm very OCD, so I like I don't go outside the lines.
Yeah.
So to just do OMAD all the time, 100% of the time, that's just what I did. And I just felt like I was getting tired easier one week, and it was a couple weeks before deer season, and I was like, well, I don't really get hunger cues anymore. So I was like, well, I don't even know if I'm really hungry, which is the good thing about this way of eating. But I thought I'll just make a little burger that I had liver mixed in with the burger, in the morning, and some ribeye bites. And I did that. And I was like, I feel pretty good. Went, saw my patients, got back to the office, ate the ribeye that I had cooked up with more ribeye fat.
Yes. I've been watching your videos about cooking up the ribeye fat.
Did that this morning with egg yolks. It was so good.
So funny, I called my local butcher shop, and said, "I wanna get ribeye trimmings," and they're like, "Well, we don't really usually have them." I'm like, "Well, just save me some," and I had ordered meat for Christmas, and I'm like, "I want," so they gave me a bag. They didn't give it to me. It was like $8 for a bag of it. It's
Yeah.
not cheap, like some people say, "Oh, I can get them for free." No, they
My,
charge like $3.99 a pound for them.
right.
So,
Yeah. I think mine is $2 a pound is what they do.
mhm,
And they save only the ribeye fat. Some people get all the different fat trimmings off the beef, and that's probably
yeah.
just I'm just a fat snob, I guess. I want the rib.
Yeah. I said I wanted the rib, because everybody's getting prime rib right now for Christmas. So I'm like, that's what I want is the trimmings off the ribeye. So I can't wait to try it.
It's really, and if you have an air fryer, that's probably one of my favorite recipes, really. If even if I'm going to cook something in a cast iron skillet, which I'll do the ribeye fat in the cast iron skillet, and it's good, but it sits in its own oil, so it doesn't crisp up as good as I like it. But air
Mhm.
fryer, I really like it that way.
Okay, I'm gonna have to try that. I got a whole big bag of it now. I can try it.
And I
So
cut.
I do get brisket trimmings from my stepdad.
Yes,
And those are good, but
yes,
I want to try the ribeye trimmings and see how they are. If there's any difference.
yeah, they're really good.
So I want to just go back. Hey, Squeaky Toys 59 and everybody else. We appreciate you guys all being here. I do want to mention that if you guys have any questions for Laura, you can go ahead and put those in the chat and we'll make sure that we come through and answer them. All right, let's go back to 2 years on carnivore. So I'm assuming that you heard about it through Dr. Barry.
No.
Okay.
I went to look it up though. So originally, I believe it was Joe Rogan.
That's right. He was doing it for a while.
Yep.
I don't know if he
And
still
then
is.
I actually saw Michaela Peterson, Jordan Peterson's daughter, and then Jordan. And I was like, all right, what's Dr. Barry think about this? And
Mhm.
I was already following him, but I wasn't watching consistently. And so then I watched, and sure enough, he started talking about it. And I was like, yes, okay, this is okay. We're going to try this.
Yes.
And, you know, ancestrally, my dad was 3/4 Cherokee Indian. So my mom used to say, well, it's not like your dad's, grandparents were running around chasing broccoli. They
Right.
She's
Right.
like, they were chasing the buffalo and whatever else was here that they could, and they utilized all of it, which we do. That is one thing I am very, and I'm not looking down on other people that hunt that don't utilize the whole animal. That's everybody's been taught differently how to do stuff, but I have always felt like, especially bow hunting, that is such a personal experience, of taking another creature that I've always, for one, I always pray, which I'm praying and all the time anyway, but I'm always like, let me take this animal ethically, one shot. I don't want anything, I don't want something to lay there and be miserable or in pain. I want it done, and I will utilize everything. So the deer this year, great big doe. I was like,
Mm.
I'm going to keep kidneys and liver and heart, except the top of the heart I couldn't keep. So I didn't end up keeping it because that's where the shot went, which is good for the deer.
Okay, that's good.
But yeah, I did keep that, and I ground that into the meat to make the hamburger. And it is, oh my gosh, if you've ever eaten I'm not sure where you live, if you guys have a Maid-Rites, if you've ever heard of that chain. Um,
No.
yeah,
I'm
and
in Michigan.
it's probably more in Iowa, Illinois. It's called Maid-Rites. And I took care of the owner of that place down at the hospital years ago. And he says, you should come get a sandwich. And I'm like, well, I'm never going to eat a sandwich, because I was
Right.
already eating breads. And he says, oh, you can get a cup of this, the meat. And he says, you want to know the secret to my Maid-Rite meat? And I was like, sure. And it was that they use organ meat ground up.
Nice.
Yeah. So
That's nice.
I was
Yeah, I
like,
was thinking about doing that because I got a cow. I got like a 3/4 cow between a bunch of us in the family. And I was thinking about having them grind in some organ meat the next time I get a cow because I didn't even think about it this time. But I'm like, maybe I can get some organ meats ground into my portion of the beef because, you
can't,
know,
even like sometimes I'll buy 10 pounds of like 80/20 from like Fairway, and then I'll add some ribeye fat to make it more 70/30. And
mhm.
then into 10 pounds, I'll add about 2 pounds of calf liver.
Do
You
you grind that do you have a grinder that you grind it with or you have a,
I'll show you what I use.
okay. Oh, your Vitamix.
So
Like
actually, it is the old
KitchenAid.
and the top, this right here, it's a KitchenAid mixer. So
Mhm.
you can take that off, and I've got a little grinder.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
The story is I got that as a wedding gift for my first husband, my children's dad. So that'd be 33, 4 years ago. And I
Wow.
never used it as a mixer because it seemed I don't want to do a bunch of dishes. So to me, I was like, I can whisk it with a fork or a whisk
Mhm.
instead of getting everything dirty. So I never used it for that. So probably 15 years ago, I bought the attachment. So I just use that grinder attachment, and it's quick and easy. And yeah,
So Brenda's saying that, she never tried Made Right, but her mother spoke of loving them, and she lived in Iowa.
yes, they were very good. Um, and
Um, Brenda wants to know where you're from.
I originally came from Fort Madison, Iowa, which is, um, they've got a great big penitentiary there. The thing that they were kind of famous for is they have the only, or maybe it's the last, it's the oldest, I'm sure, swing span bridge that opens up to let barges through.
Oh,
Uh,
nice.
so yeah, it's kind of a thing.
I'll bet it blocks traffic for a while when they open it up. Mama Cracker's here. Hi, Mama Cracker. Welcome. I do have a comment here. I want to just bring this up. Kathy Perez says, I fired my GP when I told him something was wrong, couldn't lose weight. 5 months later, another doctor found my thyroid cancer. So I went back to Dum Dum and thanked him for being the worst doctor I ever had for 8 years. All he would say is, you need more willpower and lose weight. Yeah.
There's is willpower. Um, I do believe in karma. I believe in good karma and I believe in bad karma. So I fired my doctor the very end of 91. It might have been the first little bit of 92, but it was within that year. And then I went to school for becoming an LPN, and then I went later and went back for my RN. So during my RN rotation at a large university, was working on the cardiac floor, doing the training, and I get my assignment for that day. And I was like, oh, there can't be two of these people in the world. I mean, his first name's David and his last name is Unique. And I was like,
Okay.
And I looked at my instructor and I said, I don't think he's going to want me. I fired him. And you know how doctors sometimes have a little ego. And
Mm-hmm.
like, well, let's go in and ask him. And I'm like, okay. So we go in and he's intubated, but he's awake. So he
Okay.
had a dry erase board. And she was like, well, this is Laura. And do you mind if she's your nurse today? She said that you guys have a history. And he was like, I don't remember her, kind of.
Oh, okay.
I'm like, okay. Well, the next day, we extubated him. We took him, off the breathing tube, pulled his wires and everything, started getting him up. And of course, he was 500 pounds at this point.
Oh my
So
gosh.
he's 6'5" and 500 pounds, which he didn't look morbidly bad because he was so tall.
Right.
But when I was seeing him, he was, a year out of medical school. He was a twig, so
Mhm.
he felt like he could say those things. But when I looked at his medication list, I was like, he's on a statin.
Mhm.
And I sat down and I said, so you take a statin? Oh, I've taken it for 25 years. And I said, oh, okay. And I said, you still eat country crock? And he kind of looked at me and he goes, I do. And I said, well, you just had a 5-way bypass. And I said, that wasn't cholesterol in there. I mean, there's a little bit of cholesterol inside your arteries when there's damage because that's what goes to heal it, but it's calcium that collects there. And
Mm.
how did that work for you? And he goes, well, why do you care? And I said, because I'm the girl that you said I'm going to die a fat A. And he goes,
Right.
I kind of remember that. 'Cause about 14 or 15 years since then. And he goes,
Mhm.
but I took it and I said, and here you are having a 5-way bypass. Like
Right.
that did not, why would you, that's insanity doing the same thing, expecting a different outcome. And
Right.
I took care of him for the 3 days that we were there. And he was okay. I mean, he kind of was quiet, with me. And so I was like, whatever. Well, my mom still lives in that town and sees a doctor next door to his office at the hospital and has for years. And she ran into him. And this has been, was I carnivore? I don't think I was carnivore yet. So it was probably 5 years ago or better. Um, he says, hey, would your daughter be willing for you to give me her phone number? And my mom's like me, but worse. And she said, how about I give her your phone number? And if
Right.
she agrees, she will. So I did reach out to him and he was open to, he stopped his statins and he went keto. And
Nice.
Yeah, which for him I think is fine. He's down. I think he's 185 pounds is what he weighs.
What?
Yeah, yeah.
Amazing.
Him 2 years to do that. But my mom says she sees him out at the track. He's constantly walking out there with his wife. So, she says, "Did he ever thank you?" And I said, "That's not what they do." I said, "That's okay." I said, "Because
Mhm.
I didn't do the work. I just gave him the information."
Yeah, right. That's amazing. That's like a powerful testimony, that's like a full circle moment. That's amazing.
I, I was, when I
I
saw,
can listen to this story over and over and over again. It is so incredible because, for him to even humble himself to come and ask you
yeah,
about it is pretty incredible. So that's
yeah.
amazing. I love
Well,
that.
like, I wonder what he's going to do because you never know. Are they coming to you because they really do want to know? Which I
Mhm.
was, that's fine because I'm not shy. I never have been a shy person. So even back when I was working at a factory, I built semis when I was 20. As soon as I changed my eating style, I was telling everybody
Mhm.
because they could see the weight just fell off, you know.
Yeah,
And I bought all my clothes at secondhand stores because I'm like, I'm not buying brand new clothes that I can't fit in. And
right. Yep. Yeah.
yeah,
Awesome. Kathy Perez says, Laura, love your channel.
thank
Sick
you.
right now. My daughter brought the flu home from work, so we're all having our turn. Oh, I'm sorry, Kathy. I hope you guys feel better.
Yeah.
But hopefully next week I'm making your deodorant mix. Thanks so much. Can you tell us a little bit about that? What is that?
So
Deodorant mix.
I actually have it here. So it's just in a little container like that.
Okay.
So it's similar to like the Lumi or that kind of stuff where you have to put it on your hand and put it on yourself, which is fine. It's your body.
Yeah.
Uh, but I actually started doing that when I was 34. I had a breast cancer it was one side was cancerous, the other was precancerous.
Oh.
And everything I had read up on it at that time was that it was something that aluminum was pretty, not 100% the culprit, but it was like, those glands are right there. They're so close to here, your brain, stuff like that. So that's when I started thinking, well, what's in our deodorants, what's in our toothpaste, what's in our stuff. And I had also worked at a food factory called Armor Dial, and they make like the Vienna sausage, potted meat, treat,
Oh, I
don't
love potted meat. It's so delicious.
I won't tell
Sure,
you.
it's not good for me, but it's so tasty.
It's the salt that makes it taste good because they always
Oh,
really good salt. But
okay.
I learned there that that's kind of where my part of my distrust of the three-letter agencies under the government and the four-letter like USDA. And
Mhm.
we had food products that would be contaminated, and our USDA guy would just take a core sample, and if it was less than a third of the weight of the entire product, it was shipped on. It's okay. And you don't get to pick what that foreign material was. That could be,
Correct.
yeah, could be a finger. We had a lady's finger that was off and it had a long red fingernail. They take it out, but what's in the meat? Yeah, we had a junction box.
Gross, gross.
Yeah, so that's allowed to be, there's
Can
such
I make my own? Because I really enjoy it. I should make my own.
it's actually mostly pork if you look at it.
Mhm.
Spotted meat is mostly pork, and all you would have to do is just puree it, and you could put some bone broth and heavy, kind of go heavy on the salt, and just like a pate. That's exactly
Okay.
what.
I'll
So yeah,
make it myself because
I
I
would.
do enjoy
I know.
it.
So that's kind of when I started seeing that. We got the beech nut baby food contract at that factory, and a week or two later, Alpo dog food came through. We
Hmm.
didn't get the contract because we had too many contaminants. And I'm like,
For
wait
the
a minute.
dog food. Wow,
Yes. Yep.
that's crazy.
So that's when I started going, okay, I'm starting to read more labels. And I love chemistry. I have a chemistry degree. I love chemistry. I love to write and read everything in, like MSO4 and HCO3. I love that stuff. I'm a nerd. But you shouldn't have to have a chemistry degree to read what's going on your body or in your body. And
Right.
so that kind of is
Well, what's in the deodorant? Because I actually tried Lumi. I had a bad reaction to that. It
yeah.
gave me a skin breakout. I
Yeah.
couldn't use it.
And so I have the Lumi that first came out was okay. They've changed something in their formula. So I use organic cocoa butter in my,
Okay.
yep, I do
Mhm.
chunks. Um, the baking soda that I use, which you won't be, it's Red Bob's
Yeah,
milk,
yeah, mhm.
and it's aluminum free baking soda. You could use that. Shea, there's some shea butter that's organic. And you can use some coconut oil. The one I did not do that. I did do some tallow in with mine. And I do have a video on that. And I think I have the entire recipe kind of typed up into the description if they want to go look for that. It's there. I don't have that card in here with me. I'm still old school and I do write stuff out like that. But
Yeah, I'm a writer too. I write a lot of stuff down.
use essential oils if you want it scented, so
Yeah.
I do that kind of stuff. I think I have a little bit of castor oil in there because that's going to help detoxify.
Yeah. So you recently told all of us felines about castor oil.
Yes.
So can you share with the audience about castor oil, the benefits of it, and why a
There,
person would want to be utilizing castor oil?
well, and I'm not sure if your grandmother did this to you, but my grandmother was like, every time you came over, she was like, did you have a BM today? And I'm like, oh my God, that's the last thing I want to talk to you about. You didn't say no, because if you said no, you got a teaspoon of castor oil or cod liver. And
Yep.
so
Both
that,
both from my grandmother. Yep.
yes. And so I was like, oh, so I learned to lie to my grandmother. Yep, I did. Um, so anyway, so that was what I knew of castor oil for a long time. And then when I went through my nursing school for my LPN, I worked with a doctor and learned a ton from him. He had taken his education in India, where I think they have more natural teaching. And so he used castor oil with a lot of his surgeries. So after they had the wound, he would actually not put dressings on them a lot of times, like a paper style dressing. He would do a castor oil and then like your cotton over it, or linen. He liked to use linen. Uh,
Oh,
and he kind of taught me that that is the deepest penetrating oil. It can go through and get to adhesions or lesions. So like I've had C-sections and hysterectomies, and I don't have any trouble with scar tissue now. I had trouble with scar tissue when I had my first child, where it had wrapped around my intestines.
oh my
And
gosh.
so I started putting that just on the scar, thinking it was going to help the scar. And it actually helped those adhesions. So then I was like, oh, well, if it can do that, this deep into your abdomen, what else can it do? And that's when I started seeing how it can help with the detoxifying, breaking down of what you call rogue proteins. So
Okay.
proteins, but floaters in your eyes are like the protein of the membrane that's broken away. Uh,
Mm,
Cataracts, excessive gunk, that's built up. That's what that, so that helps penetrate those. And, I had a corneal transplant in 1976 on my right eye, and it was the old style. They didn't have lasers back then. They
mhm.
scalpel and stitches. So I had a large scar around my cornea on my right eye that, every time you blink, you feel it, but you get used. So two things I did when I had a 7-hour surgery when I was 20. I had started using castor oil on my eyelids, and I was getting brave and just putting it up in my eye, actually, which I still do. I'm not afraid of it. I do that now too. But I fasted 7 days before that surgery. Then I drank bone broth the day we come home. And then I fasted again another 7 days, just water and my Himalayan salt at the time. I didn't have Redmond's. And when I went to see just the routine eye doctor, because it was time to get my glasses again, it had been 3 years, she was like, well, you don't need glasses. And I'm
What?
yeah, I was 49 when that happened, or 50, one of the two. And she says, let's do that again. So we did the whole thing again, the 50 different.
Yeah.
And she was like, no, you don't need glasses. And she was like, did you have your scar lasered off? And I said, nobody's touching this eye. Like, I still have my cornea. It's the same
Mhm.
little boy that was also 5, which is unheard of. They usually 10 years is what they kind of get most of the time. And so I said, no, nobody's ever touching this eyeball unless it's for another corneal transplant, but like no LASIX or anything like that. And I said, so no, I didn't. And I said, I didn't even realize blinking, that I didn't have that anymore. And then I was like, oh, so I still have the scar. Like, when you look at it, you can see it in the light that it's
Mhm.
not raised anymore. That's,
Wow.
yeah. So another thing that really helps with sleep is your belly button is connected to so many nerves in the body, that I have been putting the castor oil, and I use a essential oil from Melaleuca called Peace. Uh,
Mhm.
and I put some of that and I mix that together, and that's what I put in my belly button every night. And I find digestion's better and sleep is much improved when I do that. If I forget to do it, I pay for it. It's a little different. I mean, it's still good, better sleep than I ever had before, but
Mhm.
so those are most of the things. And I add it into my tallow lotion. I'm going to be making a shampoo. I'm waiting on some lye to come in. I'm going to make my own shampoos. Um, that's going to have some castor oil, some rosemary,
Yeah,
different things like that.
nice. That, I started using the castor oil, and I did start putting it on my eyelids, and if a little bit gets in my eyes, I'm okay with it
Yep. Yep.
because 'cause I'm going to sleep anyway.
Yep.
And, putting it in the belly button, I noticed that my deep sleep pretty much doubled when I started doing that. And I got very little deep sleep. I would get like 20 minutes a night. And then, I'm still kind of tired all the time, actually, because I still think I'm not getting enough deep sleep, but it doubled from what it was before I started using the castor oil. So that was pretty impressive, actually.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was shocked.
Yeah.
I was shocked. I didn't know it was going to do that. And then I'm hoping that for that, eye health improvement as well. So I think everybody should be trying it using castor oil. So, um, now you're on Lion Diet. You've been on Lion Diet for about 4 months, is it you said?
Nice.
9 months. So how's that going? What is that like? What is a day of eating, week of eating, and how do
So
you like Lion Diet?
I love Lion Diet. It is the easy. It's even easier than carnivore. So carnivore is so much easier than keto, because with keto, I was fortunate when I went keto in 91. They didn't have all the treats and the bull crap that was labeled keto. So it really was true keto.
Mhm.
Now they have all that, and you're trying to make a cheesecake that looks and tastes like the other cheesecake. You don't have any of that.
I can do that. I
Yes,
can actually do it and make it taste like a regular cheesecake.
I know.
I love to cook, so I have a whole huge bag of almond flour. Like, I'm like, "What am I gonna do with that?" Because 'Cause I'm not making anything with it now. So
I have coconut flour and I have almond flour that I had bought. And I'm just like, well, I'll just trade it to somebody someday if I need to for something. Maybe I need honey for one of my medicinal things. I make fermented garlic honey for like strep throat and stuff. So,
yeah.
which would be the only time I would put honey in, is if it was for something like that, which I haven't had for a long time. So I don't worry about that. But I just kind of listen to my body. If I get up, I always work out in the mornings. I feel like your cortisol is the highest in the morning. So I do that. And I just will do like a hamburger and some ribeye fat, or I may do half of a steak in the morning with like 3 egg yolks. And then later on in the day, like no later than like 1:30, I'll eat the remainder of whatever I want to make for that day. But mine's just really ruminant meat. It's deer, it's beef, some lamb. And then I can't do egg whites. Egg whites inflame me. So
Oh,
so I always have to separate them. And I swear, I never used to, like when I separated the eggs, I never thought about that little white that was hanging on to the egg yolk until G one day was like, I'm taking off the umbilical cord. Now I'm like, now I can't eat. So
oh, that's disgusting.
I know I spent 10 minutes this morning trying to get those little umbilical cords off of the egg. And I was like, oh,
Oh, see, I didn't need to. That's something I did not need to know.
and
She
I
is
was,
such a wealth of information.
so that's basically, I mean, it's such a simple way to eat. And I have some people, they're like, aren't you bored? And I'm like, no, I have nothing but time on my hands. I crochet too. So I know that seems
Okay.
be a crocheter but that's because I can't sit and watch a football game. I don't watch the news because they're liars, and I don't watch commercials if I can help it because they're liars. But
Right. All the
even
dancing, people dancing about their medicine.
uh,
So crazy.
story to tell. I
My
just
gosh.
yeah, marketers are great. But so I do crochet, but like with my extra time, it gives me time to make up my different recipes for stuff. I don't and nothing, no shame on people that are like health people that are charging for like information or stuff like that. That's kudos. I think that's needed. I think we need people out there that have information to help. um, just so many people that I've worked with over the decades have recently been reaching out to me like, hey, can you help me with this? What should I do with that? This is what the doctor said about that, but I don't want to take it. What can I do? And so I'll spend several hours a day just corresponding with people of this is what I would do. This is what I would ask your doctor. Get a second opinion. I'm a big fan of second opinions, and I
Yes.
believe if your doctor gets offended when you tell them that you want a second opinion, you need to run. And that's not your doctor.
Mhm.
Because I'm a nurse and going into the home, if there's something I see and I'm like, ooh, this is outside my wheelhouse, I have no problem with you getting a second opinion or me having my senior nurse come look at something because I want to do what's best for the person. It's not about my ego.
Right. I mean, what is that ego? You know what I mean? It's like,
I
I
don't know.
don't I don't understand that, you
Well,
know?
I don't think all of them have that ego, but a lot do.
Mhm.
And even my female doctor that I have that I go see just yearly for my cholesterol and all my labs and stuff, she was a little bit that way 4 or 5 years ago, but she's not that way anymore. This year,
Mhm.
when she had my labs and she threw them down on the desk, kind of in a huff, and I was like, having a day, and it was 8 o'clock in the morning, and she was like, I just don't understand. How are your labs perfect? They did all my vitamins, minerals, everything was perfect. I mean, perfect.
Yeah.
And like, I just don't understand it. I have been vegan 25 years. And I'm like,
Uh, ding, 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 ding. Yeah.
and she's very book smart, intelligent. She's got multiple degrees. But when you look at her, you can tell that like her thyroid is shot because like
Mhm.
hair off at all these little places, and it's
Yeah.
real. And I said, well, you're deficient in A, E, D, and K and B12. And she goes, how do you know that? And I said, because you look like your thyroid's getting ready to die. And I was like,
Mm.
breaking off, and you fell and broke both of your wrists, and you're way younger than me. She's like 48 or 49 at the time.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
she brought her labs out, and we spent my hour.
Going over her labs.
And she's
Wow.
add in eggs, but she will not eat anything other than that. And I said, well, at least you're going to get some eggs, and you'll get
Mhm.
the
Yeah.
good.
So Brenda has a question here about the hernia. Whether you think castor oil would help a hernia.
How, how big of a hernia and where is it located would be the question I would need to know the answer.
Maybe she'll respond.
But yes, that and sometimes wearing a binder type belt will help keep it in place and allow your body to close the muscles over that site.
Right.
Yeah.
So Felicia says, perhaps that is a problem. And then she spelled out vegan.
Yeah.
It is a problem. I was just listening to Dr. Chafee, and I took a short of it because my grandson is a vegan.
Yeah.
And he's 17 years old, and I'm so concerned about it. But what he was saying is that vegan cannot get the proper nutrition without supplementation. They just can't. And so they have to take supplements if they're going to be a vegan. So I took that clip and sent it to my grandson. I just want him to think about it like, this is not probably the most healthiest thing for you to be doing right now.
Well, and especially, I mean, whether you're male or female, it's so disastrous for the sex hormones. The plants are
Mm,
not good for them building, having the precursors to make those. You need the cholesterol, you need the animal fats really help boost that for you, which is why a lot of men who go carnivore see their T scores go up, their testosterone levels go up. Females, like when I went through menopause, it was literally like no problem. And every woman in my family has 10 years of menopause symptoms. And I had one overnight that I was like, I got a hot.
Amazing.
I was laying in bed and I was like, I'm never hot, and I
I
was
have
like,
hot flashes constantly. My mom is 75 and she still has hot flashes. And
my,
she had a hysterectomy and she still has hot flashes. I'm like, oh my God, this is what I have to look forward to.
well, what I was afraid of, and that's actually another reason that I did the carnivore. Once I started listening to those four people, I thought, well, I wrecked all my hormones young because of eating, the junk. And I thought, well, I wonder, I had cystic acne that,
Mhm,
those, the hormonal cystic acne. Um,
mhm,
even on keto, I still got that. And I knew I had had a partial hysterectomy. I still had my ovaries, but I could tell that I wasn't ovulating quite as often. I could always tell when I ovulated which side. And I was like, okay, that's becoming less and less. I'm going to thought, oh, I do not want to be like my mom and have 10 years of this. And
right.
so that was another reason I did that. And probably a year and a half in, is I had that one night where I just like had that one hot flash, and I thought, am I getting a fever?
You are so blessed.
She says, I hate you. And I was like, that's a horrible thing to say to your daughter. And she
Right.
says, 76. And I just finally have had like 6 months of no hot flashes, no nothing.
Mhm. Maybe
So
when my mom turns 76, she just turned 75, so she's another year of it.
hopefully, hopefully, yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
It's sad that we especially when we were younger women, you know um especially like prepubescent, what we were eating, it was just not doing good. I feel so bad for these women that end up with endometriosis, and that's a metabolic disease too. um
Mhm.
Ovarian syndromes, all,
Yeah.
just all of the things, that can be corrected. I mean, look at Nisha Berry,
The thing of it is the people willing to do what it takes to correct if
yeah.
they find out, that it can be corrected, are they willing to do what it takes to actually correct it? And
Some
that's what I'm finding it is a lot of people are just not willing to make those sacrifices. They don't wanna give up their
they
sugar and
don't.
processed foods.
And I find that a lot, like I said, 90% of my patients that I see for home health now are because of metabolic diseases. It's not because of catastrophic accident, car accident. Uh,
Mhm.
even a hip replacement is from osteoarthritis that was probably a metabolic, problem. So, yeah, but a lot of times pain is something that will push you to do a lot of stuff. So I think once people get to the point where they're in pain and
Yeah.
nothing is helping their pain, that's kind of when they'll be like, "Hey, can you help me? Is there something I can do?" Um,
Hmm.
and I wasn't having pain at 20. I mean, I had hip pain a little bit from being heavy, but I wasn't in pain necessarily. It just, I didn't want to be diabetic because I don't like needles. And that
Right.
was,
No, I wouldn't want to either.
no,
I mean, I'm seeing so many negative impacts to everybody that I know that has diabetes.
mhm.
I've seen a lot of kidney disease,
Yep.
and of course, metabolic disorder. You can look around outside, and you can see the metabolic disorder all over our bodies out here. So definitely, but it does take some sacrifice. You have to be willing to just you gotta say like, okay, I'm not going down that road. Like you said, I'm not gonna be poking myself all the time. So basically, people are not willing. Like my daughter is gonna have a hysterectomy in January, and I'm like, you could try carnivore.
Yeah.
And she's like, no, I can't.
Yeah.
So she'll have the hysterectomy, you
Right.
know?
Yeah. And there's like the reason for my hysterectomy was fibroids. And
Mhm.
even
That's yeah.
I was keto, I still had trouble and had those fibroids. So yeah, carnivore could have helped. I'm sure of it.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's so many comments in here. Let me just pop them up here. Hey, Renee. Yes. Oh, Carrie had a live tonight. I didn't realize Carrie was live tonight. Let's see. So here is a good one. I know that we're going to be out of time. We're out of time. But this question, if you could just answer this one, and then we'll kind of try to wrap it up.
Okay.
So Felicia says, Lucy Lemons, I'm still struggling with getting enough fat. I know you just did a video about this.
I did. So if you have a butcher that you can buy like ribeye fat or beef trimmings, I would get those, cut those up into, I do little tinny cubes just because I like them to be like piece of popcorn. You can just pop them in. But I would cook up some ribeye fat with any of your meats or your eggs, especially like some people, I don't know who, but there's a few that have, I like the taste of chicken breast. I'm like, okay, there's no taste in it, but
Yeah.
I make sure you do it in ribeye fat and have plenty of extra fat. If you're somebody who can do butter, you can also put a lot of extra butter on top of a steak, whatever it is that you're eating. Um, you can do tallow. Some people will actually just put tallow right on top of their steak and kind of slather it. I saw Dante Ferrigno, Freedom, did
Yeah.
that. I don't know that I mean, I suppose it'd be okay, but I just eat the ribeye fat. It tastes really, really good. So that's
Mhm.
increased my fat. You, I'm trying to think. I do oil pulling with coconut oil, but I don't swallow that oil. But I'm sure you're getting some of the benefit
Mhm.
oil too. But that's what I would do. And egg yolks, lots of egg yolks.
Yeah. I had a like a aversion to eggs this week. I usually eat eggs almost every single day. This week I was like, after I ate it the first couple of days, I was like, I cooked the eggs and I couldn't eat them. I
Yeah,
just was like, hmm.
yeah. This was the
Okay.
first time I ate eggs in probably months. Uh,
Wow.
I just got to the point where I didn't. But today, when I did just the egg yolk, I was like, okay, that wasn't so bad because it was without the egg white, and that didn't seem to bother me. So maybe try that. See.
Yeah. So Laura, does it matter if the castor oil is organic or not? I know that you have a brand that you recommend.
So
And mhm.
have a specific brand, although I think there's something Queen of Thrones, I think is one that everybody kind of recommends. I have not bought that one. I have several other kinds. You just want to make sure that it is organic, cold pressed, and hexane free. Um,
Okay.
want those things. And then really that's it. And I mean, there are so many uses for the castor. If you are somebody that has neuropathy, nerve pain in the legs, discoloration, like you said, you have family that has diabetes, they probably have that discoloration in the legs.
Yep.
Taking castor oil with some cayenne pepper in it and rubbing that on those lower extremities helps open up those blood vessels.
Yeah.
Helps get some nutrition in there to get them healed.
I'll put a link to the one that I ordered after you talked to us about
Yeah.
it in the description of this video. So if you guys want to check that out, you can see there is a comment here about the hernia.
Okay.
So here's that. It's above his left testicle, not as big as an egg.
Okay. So I would definitely try the castor oil. I would put that on that area, and then almost like a jock strap. I would get something similar to like a jock strap at like a sports store, and I would wear that and try to keep that pressure in that area to hold up against that.
Mm.
You can get that bulge to get underneath the muscle layer and allow that muscle layer wants to come back together, no matter where it's at, whether it's abdominal, inguinal, doesn't matter. But if you can get that pushed in and keep pressure up against it, and then doing the castor oil will help prevent that from getting scar tissue around there, which decreases how quickly it'll want to close.
Thank you, Laura.
Yeah.
You know, you are such a wealth of information. I just appreciate you so very much. I'm so glad that I had an opportunity to know you and be a feline with you.
Yeah.
So this has been absolutely incredible, so informative. And I have so many more questions that I'm going to have you back
That's okay.
because I didn't get through all of my questions and I want to talk about prepping. So maybe we'll just do one whole video
I could
together, just talking about prepping because I want to know about that.
I could do probably a 2-hour video on prep, because I believe in prepping food. I believe in prepping medical. And when I say medical, I mean holistic supplies, and then
Mhm.
in prepping to protect yourself. So I
Okay.
all forms of prepping.
So we're gonna just have to get back together and have that conversation because I definitely wanna learn more about it. I don't know too much about it. I hear Bill talking about it. I think I hear Carrie talking about it and stuff. So I just want to just learn a little bit more about that. So we'll definitely be having you back. So do you have anything on your heart that you want to share before we get off?
I have two things. So one thing, if you're interested in all the benefits of castor oil, go out and look up Dr. Barbara O'Neill. I believe she was an Australian doctor who is here now because, of course, they ran her out because of her beliefs and her healing that she's done. So that would be, she is a plethora of information and has several
Mhm.
good. So, always on my heart is the children. You look at children nowadays and they all, I can almost say 100% when you go to, let's say, Walmart and go through there and you see these kids, and I'm not fat shaming them. I was a chunky kid, but their abdomen sticks out right by their liver. And I'm like, they have fatty liver disease, which used to be just a alcoholic disease.
Yep.
Uh, we're seeing it in children at such a young age, and that has to be from what they're ingesting. And so my thing is, if I can help any parents that have children, help get that turned around so that they don't have to go through some of the things that we have. I found this at 20 of changing
Mhm.
my style, and I was lucky. And I kind of am fortunate my doctor was a jack wagon, because it forced me to go out there and educate myself. I probably wouldn't have done it, otherwise. Um, but and I'm always open. Anybody has questions, they always can reach out to me. I
Oh,
give,
let me show your channel.
hey, yes, and I will always get back to you. And I mean, even negative people, I've had them, say things, and it's like, that's okay. I mean, if they have a different of opinion, I'm fine with that. I have people, friends that have different opinions for me, and that's fine. I can only go based off of what I've seen done, what I've done with myself, and what my patients, their improvements that they've had over.
Yeah,
So yeah, it's just the kids. I feel so bad for them.
me
They're
too. I have these 11 grandkids, and I'm just so concerned, The
well,
Pop-Tarts, they're eating Pop-Tarts. That's the devil.
yeah, it is. People talk about this way of eating being expensive, and I would say the first couple weeks are when you're getting some bulk stuff up. But Rebecca and her husband do it with 8 kids, so
Right. So
it,
it's doable, you
it
know?
it is doable. And actually, I would have to say it's cheaper now, because how many times did you throw away lettuce and apples and carrots and
I'm
whatever?
still throwing away vegetables because my husband eats
Yep,
vegetables,
yeah.
but,
Yep.
they sit in the refrigerator and they go bad so fast. It's like I'm still throwing away vegetables.
Well, I throw it.
This looks good. Hamburger with ribeye fat. That looks amazing.
It's delicious. I
Pork
talk.
belly. So you're doing some cooking, you're doing some like homemade products.
I made ghee yesterday.
Ghee, yeah, I saw the ghee video. Very nice.
She loved it. She liked
So your channel it's so informative. I just love it. I
it.
love it so much.
Yours is very good too. I've been sending some people your way.
Thank you, Laura.
Yes,
That's awesome.
need to get the word out, but thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, so thank you so much for coming and being on with us tonight. I really appreciate you so much. And like I said, I'm just happy to know you. And we're going to get you back over here to talk about prepping. We're going to just do a whole show on just prepping and
I
let you tell us all about it so we can learn something new.
I look forward to that.
Yes. All right, everybody. We appreciate you being here tonight. Please take a look at Laura's channel, and we will see you next time.
See you
Good night,
later.
everybody.
Bye.